We have to now compare. Let us now compare how the three queens, the three mothers, have distinguished their selves in the form of how affection comes. If we have seen Kaikeyi, then Kaushalya and Sumitra in this order, that is Kaikeyi, followed by then Kaushalya and then Sumitra, we will know how they have differentiated themselves in the form of affection. Kaikeyi was one of the queens who loved Ram to the greatest extent. Even Ram's mother Kaushalya or Lakshmana's mother Sumitra did not love Ram as much as what Bharata's mother Kaikeyi did. But what affection Kaikeyi had was just love. Because when Manthara tried brainwashing her, when tried poisoning her, she immediately changed. She immediately changed her mind. So her love for Ram was just the word love. It was nothing more than that. Whereas Kaushalya's love was a matritvam, was a motherly affection. Because what will a mother always aim at? Be it any normal mother in this world, she will always aim at two things. One important thing, that her son should be great. Second thing, that her son should always be successful. Kaushalya always dreamt that her son Ram should be successful. But in no way she meant something bad for the other sons of the other queens. She never thought ill of Bharata, neither did she think ill of Lakshmana or Shatrughna. But as a mother, she always thought good for her son Ram, which is true in the case of any mother in this world, be it in the Treta Yugam period or Dwapara Yugam period or right now which is in Kali Yugam. Every mother will always want her son to be successful and great, which was right on the part of Kaushalya. But now we have to differentiate as to how Kaushalya is different from Sumitra. Kaushalya always thought that Ram should be successful and she never thought ill of the other sons until Ram was told to go to the forest. Once Ram was told to go to the forest, her affection for Ram decreased, whereas the hatred for Bharata or for the other sons started cropping up. So this is where Kaikeyi and Kaushalya are different from Sumitra. The third most important concept where Sumitra is different from Kaushalya and Kaikeyi, that is Kaikeyi's love, and Kaushalya's matritvam, the motherly love, is where Sumitra stands. How is she different from the other two? She was different in that case of bhakti. What she had was not the love what Kaikeyi had. What she had was not the motherly love, the matritvam what Kaushalya had. But what she had was bhakti. When there is bhakti, it is something like a person who cuts the sandalwood tree. For example, there is one Purana Shlokam in Subhashita Ratna Bhandakaram, wherein they say that if you go touch a scorpion, imagine that there is a scorpion which is about to drown in the river. A person who was on the banks of the river saw that the scorpion will be dead in a few minutes. He wanted to save the scorpion. So he took a beautiful leaf and he let it float on the river. The scorpion which was about to drown caught hold of that leaf, sat on that leaf, and that leaf safely reached the banks. This person who had the intention of protecting the scorpion who even saved the scorpion took the leaf gently and brought it to the place where scorpions generally live. And when he touched the scorpion so as to relieve it into its hole, the scorpion stung him and went inside the hole. Though the intention of the person was good to save the scorpion, and he also saved the scorpion could only reciprocate in the form of stinging. This was the case with Kaikeyi. Though people always wanted to do good to her and her son Bharata, they finally miserably failed. Why? Because she was like a scorpion. Whereas Sumitra was totally opposite. She was like a sandalwood tree. If you see woodcutters, we have known a certain woodcutter in the forests of Karnataka who was more famous for smuggling the sandalwood trees. But if you see many centuries before, the concept of sandalwood was only used in temples, wherein sandalwood sticks would be taken. They would be ground in such a way that the paste which comes from it will be used for the beautiful Abhishekam, the beautiful sacred bath which is given to the Moola Murti of the temple. So the woodcutter who would like to chop the sandalwood tree uses an axe. When he chops the tree, when he starts cutting the tree, what happens is the tree is being cut. But if you take that axe and if he smells that particular axe of whatever he is using for cutting the tree, that will smell sandalwood. Though the sandalwood tree very well knows that it is in the verge of dying, yet it helps the person who is even doing harm to it by giving that particular fragrance of sandalwood. Likewise was Sumitra. Though she knew that her son Lakshmana had offered Sharanagati at the feet of the divine couple, that is Sita and Ram, and that he would be leaving her, that is the mother, and his wife Urmila in Ayodhya and would be going to the forest for 14 years, her only intention was for the safety of Ram and Sita. So her love was not that as the same as that of Kaikeyi. Her love was not the motherly love of Kaushalya, but hers was bhakti, and her bhakti had no boundaries, it had no seema. So this is how all the commentators of Ramayanam have beautifully classified the love, have beautifully classified the bhakti, premam and the matritvam of Kaushalya, Kaikeyi and Sumitra. Now, this was happening on one side, where Ram went and informed his mother Kaushalya. Kaushalya initially did not get convinced, but finally Ram tried his level best in convincing his mother Kaushalya. Then he went to Sita's chamber. He told Sita to stay back in Ayodhya. Sita gave him all the possible reasons, and she finally accomplished her task of coming along with Ram to the forest. Next, seeing Ram and Sita coming out of their chamber, Lakshmana offered his Sharanagati at the feet of the divine couple, wherein they agreed that he would be coming along with them to the forest. Then we also saw how Lakshmana went to the chamber of his mother Sumitra, and what advice, beautiful advice, the Bhagavad Gita advice, what Sumitra gave to her son Lakshmana. This was happening on one hand. On the other hand, in the chamber of Kaikeyi, Dasharatha was on the bed as if he was bitten by a snake. That too by a venomous snake. That venomous snake was nobody other than Kaikeyi. Now Sumantra, who was the most close associate of Dasharatha, he was a charioteer to King Dasharatha. Despite that, Dasharatha knew that Sumantra had lots of mature and philosophical thoughts in him. So Sumantra came to the chamber of Kaikeyi and tried convincing her. He said, Kaikeyi, you have been the Patta Mahishi, you have been the most respected wife of King Dasharatha for such a long period. You were the one who skillfully drove the chariot of King Dasharatha during the Sambarasura Yuddham. You were the one who were granted 2 boons. Everything was nice about you. All the citizens in Ayodhya also know the fact that you love Ram, Kaushalya's son, more than his mother Kaushalya herself. People know this also. But what has happened to you all of a sudden? The person whom you loved the most, that is Ram, you are asking him to go to the forest. Is this right on your part, Kaikeyi? Kaikeyi said, Hey Sumantra, all that you are saying is right. But all that I want at this point of time is my son Bharata should become the king, and that Kaushalya's son Ram should go to the forest. There is nothing else that I want. She was so firm in her stand. Then Sumantra said, Now I am able to realize whatever my grandmother used to say in my childhood days, Hey Kaikeyi. She used to say that all the sons will carry the traits of their father, and all the daughters will carry the traits of their mothers. You have very well carried the trait of your mother. Do you know of the fact how your mother used to talk to your father? Kaikeyi did not know this, because her father Kekeya Maharaja had one boon, that he could understand the conversation that were happening between animals and insects. Whenever we look at dogs or cats on the road, we cannot guess what they are trying to converse with each other. We will just see that the dogs bark at each other. We will not know what language they are talking. But Kaikeyi Maharaja had the boon wherein he could understand what these dogs were talking amongst themselves, what these cats were talking amongst themselves. So one day, when Kaikeyi Maharaja was sleeping on the bed, and his wife, that is Kaikeyi's mother, was along with him, this Maharaja, Kaikeyi Maharaja, noticed two ants conversing with each other. And since he had the boon to understand the conversation, he chuckled, he smiled. Kaikeyi's mother wanted to know as to what her husband was understanding and what he was able to smile at. So she immediately provoked her husband and said, "Could you please tell me what those two ants were talking with each other?" Kaikeyi Maharaja said, "Hey Pattamahishi, hey Maharani, I will not be able to tell you, because the Rishi, whoever granted me this boon, who granted me the boon that I can understand the conversation happening between animals and insects, told me one important condition. He said, Hey Maharaja, you can understand the conversation happening between these animals or insects, but please make sure that you do not reveal the conversation happening between these animals or insects to anybody else. And if you do so, your head will burst into 1,000 pieces." So this Raja, Kaikeyi Maharaja, told his wife that this is the boon, but he gave me the boon along with this condition. Though I was able to enjoy the conversation happening between these two ants, I will not be able to reveal the conversation. At that point of time, this Kaikeyi's mother, she said, "I am not even bothered whether your head bursts into 1,000 pieces or not. I want to know what conversation was happening between these two ants." So Sumantra was trying to remind Kaikeyi that she was in no way different from her mother. She had borrowed every inch and every bit of the trait of whatever her mother had. So Sumantra said, "Hey Kaikeyi, I will tell you one more fact. You have absorbed whatever traits your mother had, and know one more thing. How much ever I advise you, how much ever of philosophy I try smearing and showering on you, that will not work. I'll tell you why. Because there was one person in our village, Kaikeyi. What he did was, he tried taking all the leaves from a neem tree, and he took a huge barrel full of honey. He tipped all those neem leaves inside that barrel of honey, and after 10 days he took all those neem leaves out. He assumed that these neem leaves would have turned into beautiful sugar cubes by now, and he tried putting one neem leaf inside his mouth. Despite the fact that all these neem leaves were submerged in that particular honey barrel for such a long time, still they tasted bitter. Likewise, you are like a neem leaf. You always taste bitter. Kshaudram nastraveti hi nimbat. How much ever of honey I shower on you, Kaikeyi, you will never change. Because you have just absorbed the traits of your mother. Pitran samanujayante nara matara mangana. This is just a saying. I never knew that this saying would be exemplified by you, hey Kaikeyi. But I'll tell you one thing, Kaikeyi. But please remember, people who have gathered here should remember, I have been telling certain points regarding hero worship. How Ram and Bharata, though both of them were born to the same father, though both of them looked alike, though both of them had similar Kalyana Gunam, auspicious qualities, despite that, since all the citizens of Ayodhya, all the queens of Dasharatha Maharaja and Dasharatha Maharaja himself viewed only the qualities of Ram, hence the mistake committed by Kaikeyi was tried as an umbrella, was tried as a shadow over Bharata. And due to this hero worship concept, Bharata was always misunderstood. And we have seen how Mother Kaikeyi herself misunderstood her son. She thought that her son Bharata would also be as materialistic as what she was. Hence, with this thought only, she always fought with Dasharatha and acquired the kingdom for her son. And we have also seen that Bharata's father, we have seen Bharata's mother Kaikeyi, and how Bharata's father Dasharatha said, "Hey Kaikeyi, since you have asked such atrocious boons from me, I will tell you one thing, that you will not be my wife anymore. whatever legal bondage we had after our marriage will not exist anymore, and that the son who is born to us will never be my son anymore. And we have also seen how Father Dasharatha misunderstood his son Bharata. Now the third most important thing is Sumantra. Sumantra was no ordinary charioteer. He was a charioteer to King Dasharatha. If he has to be the charioteer to King Dasharatha, see how much of philosophical thoughts he must have gathered and accumulated in him. So he told Kaikeyi, even he misunderstood Bharata. He told Kaikeyi when he was about to leave the chamber, his final words to Kaikeyi were, Raja bhavatu te putro bharatashastu medinim Vayam tatra gamishyamo yatra ramo gamishyati. Hey Kaikeyi, you think that if you coronate your son Bharata, we will all listen to your words and your son's words. Wherever our dear Ram goes, that will be our Ayodhya. Your son and yourself may be materialistic. Look at these words. He is putting both Kaikeyi and her son Bharata on the same plate. He is saying yourself and your son Bharata may have the same thoughts. You may have the same materialistic desires, but we may not have. So we have seen how Mother Kaikeyi, followed by Father Dasharatha, and now Sumantra, the great charioteer to King Dasharatha, have misunderstood Bharata. This was happening on one side. Again, let us go to the chamber of Kaushalya. In Kaushalya's chamber, Sita had now gone. As an ideal daughter-in-law, she had to obtain the permission and blessings of her mother-in-law Kaushalya. She fell prostrate at the feet of Kaushalya. She told Mata, I'll be going along with your son, Mama Natha, Mama Raghavaha, I'll be going along with him to the forest. Please bless me and give me your advice. Kaushalya said, Sita, you are no ordinary daughter-in-law. You are no ordinary wife. You are no ordinary daughter. You are the wife to great Ram. You are the daughter-in-law to the great King Dasharatha. And you are the daughter of King Janaka. All these qualifications will inadvertently make you one of the most mature women in the entire world. Despite that, as a mother-in-law, I have to give you some advice. So I will just give you one advice. Please take this from me. You will be going to the Dandakaranyam, that is the forests of Dandaka, along with Ram and Lakshmana. I have heard from my ancestors that in the forests of Dandaka there are great rishis, there are great preceptors and acharyas. Please meet them and seek the blessings, because the blessings of elders will always act as a kavacham, as an armor to you throughout your life. So try to seek utmost knowledge whatever you can from those rishis. Gather them, and when you come back to Ayodhya, Sita, please share them with me. I do not know, Sita, as to how I can live without you for 14 years, because Ram, though he was my son, he rarely used to come to my chamber. So I may not even miss Ram during this period of 14 years. But you, as soon as you came to Ayodhya, the most sacred place for you was my chamber, and you have always been talking to me with such great values, and we have been sharing such a great conversation. I will miss every part of the conversation, Sita. I do not know how I will be able to tolerate your absence in Ayodhya. Sadhvinam tu sthitanam tu Shile satyashrute sthite Strinam pavitram paramam patireko visishyate. Sita told in return to Kaushalya, Hey Kaushalya Mata, after I came, the minute I came to Ayodhya, you have become my true mother. And I will tell you one more thing, Hey Mata Kaushalya. All the advice you have been giving me for all these years, I will put them truly to practice. And please know one thing, Hey Mata Kaushalya. My mother gave me some advice. That was just a very little part of my life. My father had given me some advice. That was again a very little part of my life. But my entire life is again for Ram and is always with Ram. So I will keep following everywhere and everywhere he goes. And I will see to it that if he walks on the path of Dharmam, I will walk along with him. If he walks away from Dharmam, I will bring him to the path of Dharmam. karishe sarvameha marya yadanushasti mam abhignasmi yata bhartur vartitavyam shrutam cha me mittam dadati hi pita mitam bhrata mitam sutaha amitasya tu dataram bhartaram kana pujayet. This is one of the most moving and touching scenes of Srimad Ramayanam, wherein an ideal mother-in-law, that is Kaushalya, bids a farewell to the most ideal daughter-in-law Sita. Though we have been witnessing a lot of cases these days, especially for the past 30-40 years, wherein the mother-in-law tortures her daughter-in-law for dowry or other cases, have never been existent or have never existed during our Vedic times. You can never find a single reference in our Vedam, Upanishad, Srimad Ramayanam, Mahabharatam or Bhagavatam, Vishnu Puranam or in any of the Puranas wherein a mother-in-law would torture her daughter-in-law. Of course, there was something called as Shri Dhanam. In certain places it is also called as Stri Dhanam. Shri or Stri. Shri is always Stri. Mahalakshmi is always a Stri. So Shri Dhanam or Stri Dhanam will not make a huge difference. But there used to be a concept called as Shri Dhanam, wherein to the married daughter, the daughter's parents will give her some gold, will give her some wealth so that she could use it for her own purpose. But over the years, what has happened is, more than the girl who has been blessed with the wealth by her parents using it, it is the mother-in-law and the father-in-law and the sister-in-law who have been trying to grab that wealth, which is very wrong. So this concept of Sri Ramayanam, that is Srimad Ramayanam, and the concept of Sita and Ram, if it really has to reach the heart of everybody, then we will have to incorporate the values what Srimad Ramayanam has been teaching us. Because there is no use when people, be it in South India or North India, especially if you go to North India, they have a very nice concept wherein people would wish each other not by their names but by saying Jai Ram Ji Ki. So this concept is very good. But if you see the maximum dowry system, the maximum number of people who have been tortured for dowry is especially in the states of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, where people have been uttering the names of Ram. So when we are uttering the names of Ram or Sita, we should also incorporate the values what they have taught. We should also incorporate the values what Kaushalya as an ideal mother-in-law has taught. There is no situation in Srimad Ramayanam where Kaushalya underestimates Sita, where she embarrasses Sita, where she insults Sita. Even if you take the case of Kaikeyi, there is no situation in Ramayanam where she hurts Ram directly, where she hurts Sita directly. She just asked for the boon that Ram should go to the forest to Dasharatha. When she informed Ram also, she said it in a very nice manner. So there is no situation, there is no place in our entire Hinduism, in an entire Vedic tradition, where a mother-in-law tortures the daughter-in-law and the vice versa. There are also cases where the daughter-in-law tortures the mother-in-law. There is no denial about it. But in our concept, especially in the Vedic tradition, there is no such concept like this. So if we want to go back to the Vedas, if we want to go back to our olden times, it is best for us to adopt the values and virtues whatever those books and scriptures have taught us. This was again happening on one side. Amongst the citizens of Ayodhya, they all came to know that Kaikeyi had asked for such a boon and Dasharatha had granted it, and Ram along with Sita and with Lakshmana had decided to go to the forest. They were all very upset. But there was one Brahmana who lived in the outskirts of Ayodhya. His name was Trijata. This Trijata Brahmana, he was very poor. And as usual, he had many children. Whenever we see the history of these families, they will not have food to eat. They will not even know how to make the food available for the next point of time. But they will have so many children. It was true in this case also, because in Srimad Bhagavatam was also Sudama, the great friend of Krishna, who was also called as Kuchela, he was very poor, but he had somewhere around 27 children. Likewise, Trijata also had a lot of children. So his wife said, "Hey Trijata Brahmana, hey Natha, It seems that Ram is going to the forest, and before he goes to the forest, people are saying that he will distribute all the wealth whatever he had for all these years. So it is right time for us as a Brahmana for you to go and seek something in charity so that you could get it for yourself and save our family from the famine and drought that we have been facing for so many years. Trijata Brahmana went before Ram. Ram said, "Hey Brahmana, I have given away all the gold and silver whatever I have had to all the other Brahmins. I am just left with the cows. So please see the huge shed of cows that I have. There are over 2000 cows here. Hey Brahmana, you have a stick in your hand. Throw it at whichever point you would like. And wherever that stick falls, until that point, how many ever cows could be accommodated, you can take them all home." This Brahmana was very happy. He tried tying his dhoti in a very proper form. If you see people who generally get to the arena for fighting, they would keep their garments in a very tight position. Likewise, even he tightened his clothes. He then took the stick and aimed at a very far off point, and he threw the stick. It reached a very far off point, and approximately there will be around 800 cows which could be accommodated till that point. Now Ram gave a sarcastic smile looking at Sita. Sita then asked Ram, "Why did you sarcastically smile at me? The poor Brahmana has got 800 cows. We should feel very happy about it." Ram said, "I am not jealous about him getting 800 cows, Sita. Let him get even 1000 cows. In his house he does not have place to accommodate even 4 of his children. Where will he accommodate all the 800 cows whatever he has got from me?" So Valmiki brings out this particular verse from Ram. He said, "Tamuvacha tato Ramaha parihasa samanvitam gavam sahasramapyekam nacha vishranitam maya sativra sarayuparam dandastasya karachyuta govraje bahusahasre papato kshana sannidhau." Now it was Dasharatha's turn. We have left Dasharatha alone for a very long time. We will see what has happened to Dasharatha. Dasharatha was weeping heavily. He did not know how he was going to tolerate the separation from Ram. Actually, there was a saint called as Vishnu Chitta who was called Periyalvar in the mystic Tamil tradition. He was a mystic saint. In his composition called as Periyalvar Tirumozhi, he mentions one particular verse wherein when Anjaneya, that is Hanuman, goes in Sundara Kandam to meet Sita in Lanka, he has to give a lot of incidents which could remind her and also confirm to her that he was not an Asura. Because Sita had the feeling that it was not a monkey, it was Ravana in another form. So he had to convince her of certain facts by narrating her certain incidents or certain situations wherein she could have the idea that it was not a Rakshasa, it was not an Asura, while it was Hanuman. So Hanuman gives her one incident wherein he says, "Hey Sita, do you remember when your husband Ram left Ayodhya, his father, that is Dasharatha, cried so much that a third person will never even think that he was a king. They will think that he was an immature child, because like how an immature child cries for a certain object, it seems Dasharatha was crying for Ram. Kalakkiyama manattalarai kaike shivaram venda malakkiyama manattalanai mannavanum maradoliye kulakumara காடுரைய போ என்று விடை கொடுப்ப இலக்குமனன் தன்னோடு அங்கேகியதோர் அடையாளம்.